Satish, you have a question? Satish Thopate? You want to ask something? Unmute yourself and ask. I'm not able to hear you. Maybe by mistake you did it. All right. So we will look at what prevents us to take initiatives. What then comes in the way of converting initiative into innovation. And as I said, inertia can occur at individual level, at institutional level, and at civilization level. That's why some societies progress much faster than others, because they have been able to resolve a protocol by which, when the problems arise, they would not spend too much time in just debating and not solving them. And I have realized when I've talked to many grassroots innovators, most of them, they overcome their inertia by starting with imperfect solutions. Because many times when we start with a solution, we start with an experimentation, and if all the parameters are not known, we feel diffident. Let me find out all the parameters that are going to affect. That process of finding out what parameters need to be modified and changed itself is a research, and people do research themselves. But if they insist on finding all of them in the beginning, research gets delayed, the action gets delayed. So sometimes the need for too much information also can be a cause of inertia. But let us look at different ways in which it can occur. And let me ask you a question. What do you think about this picture? Anybody? Anybody? You can unmute yourself and tell me. What do you think about this picture?
A lady is searching for water.
Yeah, that I can see. But what does it evoke in your mind?
Struggles.
Struggle. Okay. Any other one? One at a time.
Sir,
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, hope for water.
Water issue.
Water issue. Okay. Anything else?
Sir, sir, there, as we can see that water issue is there, but they have become used to the problem. They have not thought of a solution. Still, they take pods and go to long distances and they solve their problem. So that is what.
Okay,
comes to mind.
let me change the question. If you were in government and you have to use this picture for some reason, what reason will you use it for? Has anybody seen this picture before?
I think, sir, this picture signifies the struggle and the need to recognize that struggle and maybe find some solutions to overcome that struggle.
I'm trying to get into the aesthetics of development, aesthetics of innovation. When we want to solve the problem, yes, go ahead, please.
Sir, this represents poor distribution of energy resources. So one person who is sitting in the city is having those kind of resources which can help them to do the physical problem, and the people who are in poorer areas are not often equipped with such kind of resources. So this tells the inequality in the society, and we need to redistribute such resources.
I've also read. Yeah, now I will ask you one more question. Is this picture beautiful or ugly?
Sir, for visualization, it may be good, but for the thinking, if you are thinking deeply, then it is not that beautiful. It represents the struggle which we are facing as a society.
All right. Jahanavi Gogoi, I will like to take up your comment. What you have said is exactly the way Government of India thought. And many years ago, Ministry of Culture used this picture to invite tourists to visit our shame. Now, I will not get into details of why the government does it, what happened to the aesthetic sense or social sensitivity of Ministry of Culture at that time. the whole Incredible India campaign was aimed at telling how incredible India is in terms of its achievements, its culture, its tradition. But yes, this is also incredible that we can live with a problem for so long and showcase that problem to the people around the world. Come and see the shame of India. Now, it might look harsh to some of you, but that is a reality. This picture has been taken from Incredible India website. So please understand that many times the way we look at a problem and define it makes all the difference to our response to that problem. I'm not passing any value judgment. Please don't get me wrong, Janki. My only point is the thought we have been trained in our mind to look at the aesthetics, the symmetry, the texture, the background in a particular manner, such that the substantive effect of that on that lady who's walking in the summer, obviously it is sunlight, sun time, because we can see the shadows. Long distance on the sand dune in Jaisalmer is a trouble, is a pain in itself. So many times when we define problem, the sense, what is the aesthetics of alienation? This is, to me, an illustration of aesthetics which alienates me from the problem. It doesn't make me closer to the problem, take me closer to the problem. It doesn't help me see the problem. It takes me away from the problem. And I think it would be very useful if we interpret sometimes. Please, friend.
235
So my suggestion to you is that do reflect sometimes, ask yourself this question: how am I looking at this problem? How is it affecting me or my colleagues? How do I evaluate the situation that I'm witnessing? Because many times the touristic interpretation may not dent our inertia, may not create a dent on our sensitivity. And that's the reason why problems remain unsolved or unaddressed. So let's go further and see what else could be the reason. So institutional inertia, let us look at. How many of the labs do have sanitary pad dispensing machine in the women's washroom? Please raise hands. How many labs have sanitary pad dispensing machine in the women's washroom? I'll tell you a story of my own institute and how a student embarrassed me in the class, and I will tell you that. Before that, let me find out. Pallavi, you have it? In your lab, you have it?
Yes, sir. I'm from CLRI Chennai. We are having.
Okay.
We
Anybody
don't have.
else? Any other lab has it?
No.
A lady can answer that question. Why? How would you? Huh? Let me look at the chat. No. CSRICT, no. Okay. Please mute yourself.
No, we don't have.
Okay. Now I'll tell you what happened. Please mute yourself. What happened is that one day I was teaching a class in IMA, and one student, Pragya, got up and went out. I was surprised. I said, she didn't even ask me. And then she left the class, came back after some time. And I said, Pragya, what happened? Sir, I'll tell you at the break time. So we used to take a break in between. I'll tell you at the break time. So I said, all right. At the tea break time, I asked her, Pragya, what happened? Sir, I forgot to bring my pads, and I suddenly, my period started. And then I had to go to my dorm, which is not too far from there, but quite far. It was in the new campus. And I had to bring my pads from there, use them. So I said, you are going to tell it in the class. Sir. She said, I said, no, it's biology. And why should we not discuss our biology? This is very normal. Please. So you will have to upload again.
जाना है कहीं?
Please mute it. Please mute everybody. Please mute everybody. So friends, she came back to the class. She mentioned to everybody. Then I asked her in the class, what should be done? So sir, we should have it. I said, you know what, Pragya? For last 60 years, we, the faculty, most of them are men, but also women, We have known our wife, our sister, our children, they need sanitary napkin. So it is not something unknown to us. The fact is that we did not care to look at such eventuality, which is very commonplace. It can happen. We don't always know when my periods are going to start. So why don't you write a mail to the chief administrative officer? So she wrote a mail, and they wasn't. I said, we'll discuss in the next class. In the next class, she said, sir, I haven't heard it. So I said, write again. This time, mark a copy to me. So response came, and after some time, in about 2 weeks' time, the machine for this, or the sanitary napkin dispensing machine got installed. Now, mind you, for 60 years, an elite institute, a very sensitive institute which takes pride in its own governance and management structure, and very brilliant students come there and brilliant faculty. And yet all of us failed this girl, this student, and students like her by not being sensitive enough to such a common problem. I'm just telling you how deeply institutionalized sometime inertia is in our institution. And many of you have given examples. I don't want to get into those labs issues. The fact is that this should be a requirement or a necessary fixture in every washroom of women, in every lab, every part of the country. So I asked her, what should we do next? She says that we should write to the railways also. So I said, write a mail. And here is the email address of Mr. Prabhu, was railway minister at the time. Then she said, that public toilet should also. I said, write to Ministry of Women and Child Development. So I gave her Menka. Menka was at that time minister. So I gave her email. I said, write to her. Now look at this. This student is solving the problem first, her own problem, which is individual problem. Then she is solving an institutional problem. And then she is solving a national problem. And it, of course, could be a global problem. Many places this problem arises. So the point I'm trying to drive home is that many times the inertia is so obvious. Pallavi, you were saying something. Please go ahead. Pallavi, did you want to say something? Okay. Now, the question is, please.
So I would like to say something.
Yeah, please go ahead, Neha.
So I did my master's from JNU Delhi School of Life Sciences. So there we had this problem. We do not have sanitary pad dispensing machines installed. So we took up this issue. So 2 years we tried, we wrote to Dean, we attached the mail to VC, to student teacher committees. We sent so many mails, so many issues. In meetings we raised it. Even the boys in the students committee raised this issue that it should be there. But we were there for 2 years, nothing happened. We passed out. Now I've joined as a PhD in CDRI, but I'm sad that for 2 years I was there but could not do a thing.
But Neha, the lesson is not that you failed. The lesson is that the institutional inertia was so deep that it required much more effort than maybe you and your friends could put in. But we cannot succumb, we cannot give up. Otherwise, this country will never grow, never progress. We will remain a developing country always in our life. I mean, no matter how hard we work. If this country has to really become a developed country, a country which is economically and socially and morally and culturally developed, then we will have to ask these questions, very hard questions. And these questions have to be answered. So, Neha, you tried, I appreciate that. But don't let that example not make you cynical. My worry is the intellectuals of our society, the people who are in whom society invests in education so much. All of you are some of the most distinguished scholars of our country. So much of investment of energy, resources, attention, care, mentoring is being done in your career, in your life. Now imagine for a minute, Neha. I'm not saying specifically to Neha, but Neha as an example. Supposing Neha becomes cynical and says, look, there's no point in trying. These things don't change. System is very lethargic. And, we should just let it be like that. And you adjust with it. Every time we adjust and adapt to a problem, we have become partner in the crime. We have lost part of our sanity. We have lost part of our sensitivity. So my request is, and I'll give you next example now. There was a student Atul. There was some problem because of which some students had to repeat a course. There were about 12 students. He was one of them. So he had nothing much to do except one course in that term. And he came to me once and said, sir, he was slightly challenged, lower limb. One of his leg was, he used to limp. He said, sir, you know, in our institute, we don't have too many ramps. There are only few ramps. And many times the student like him faced difficulty because lack of ramps made them difficult either to navigate their wheelchair or even for that matter to walk properly with a support. So I said, well, go ahead. Same advice I gave to Pragya. I said, I will not do anything. You will have to do it. And it took some time, but afterwards, the administration agreed and said, look, this is a good suggestion. And we are now increasing the share of the students of special needs students we are admitting in larger number. We should really make our system much more enabled. Even though, mind you, there's a law of the land which says all public offices and all public institutions must be disabled enabled. That's the law of the land. But large number of buildings are not disabled enabled. And that's another example. So then he got a lot of ramps made. And I mentioned this in my class every year, and I mentioned this to all of you, that look, I'm mentioning these names just because to tell you that one student, that student's inability to live with the inertia made a change which subsequent batches have benefited from and will continue to benefit from. You know, many of you have gone to the mountain. You have seen those small pagdandis, the pathways. Somebody has made those pathways which make it possible for us to climb the mountain or climb or walk through the forest. Then there are some small passages that are made by people. Somebody must have pioneered it one day. Other people followed and they found that it was good enough path and it became a way. That's how the ways are made. Somebody has to make a beginning. And I'm absolutely sure, Neha and others who have not had success in this regard, that you will not give up. You will not give up. As you said, some people have, some people don't. Some people have mentioned that NPL doesn't
it's not like I have not had success in this scene earlier, because in my bachelor's, I did my bachelor's from Delhi University, Gargi College. There also I was a part of Students' Union. And there we got the ramps installed. We wrote letters and we talked to the principal, and then we got the ramps installed. So now the moral of the story is sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't. But I'm happy that you are raising this issue before the entire group, because your experience will reinforce our ability to take initiative. And that's why such experiences have to be shared. We need to create a culture in which people will share the cases where they were able to overcome the inertia. Let me ask a third question. And this question is a bit ticklish because it affects all of you, each one of you. Many times you have lab discussions about your research. Maybe your mentor, your professor would say, okay, all the students will sit together on a Friday. They have a seminar day. I used to have then. I was doing my master's in genetics. And those days, generally the students are invited and the faculty and the postdoc or doctoral students are all there, MSc students are there. Now, we seldom invited the research assistants and lab attendants. So once we were doing the program for DRDO and ISRO, Anamika was involved in that program. And we asked the same question, and there were such beautiful examples that the scientists from ISRO and DRDO gave of the lessons they learned from lab attendants or from such staff, which saved huge cost and improved safety of their projects significantly. Now, what I'm trying to say is that collegiality is another issue where there's a lot of inertia. Somehow we believe that status and skills are correlated. They are not. They're certainly not. I may have a high status because of whatever achievement I may have made, but there may be matters in which I am absolutely zero. And when somebody asked me, what is your kurta number? And I didn't know my number because I didn't buy. All these years, my wife used to buy them or my friend used to bring them. So I never had to buy. I was so poor. I was so embarrassed that I didn't know. I'm wearing a cloth and I don't know the number. But the question that I'm trying to say is that all of us have our weak spots. All of us have our inefficiencies. All of us are having areas where we are very poor.
And we should acknowledge that. So why is it possible? Why is it not possible that a lab attendant or research staff could contribute to the ideas? And those professors or those groups which involve them as a team member, I can tell you, would definitely benefit more, because if a lab assistant has been dealing with these students year after year, they have observed what mistakes students do. Maybe they have some lessons to give. Sometimes they may not, because some student may not like. Don't tell me you are not supposed to guide me. I know better than you. All right, and then you snub it, and the fellow becomes quiet, and then you continue to repeat the mistake. So please consider these just examples that in our culture, in our institutions, at the individual level or group level, we do have several behavioral and norms that we have created for ourselves, which prevent us from overcoming inertia in our daily life. And when we have learned to live with problems unsolved once, second time it becomes easier, third time it becomes our nature. We don't even know that we are doing that. It will happen automatically. So please try to remember that the cynicism is infectious, optimism is not. And that's why society needs more people who would ask questions. I've been reading about the interactions that you've been having. A lot of students have been having problems of fellowship and all of that. And I'm so happy that because of that, the system has responded. They're changing the system. They brought a very efficient director of the institute to handle that matter. They changed the entire team. And in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, they're promising that they will be able to put the problem behind, for which you had to suffer for such a long time. So, sometimes, yes, it is required. There's a saying in our culture, "Maa bhi doodh nahi pilati bina bacche ke roye hue." Even the mother doesn't suckle her baby until the baby cries. There's nobody who loves a child more than mother. But she gets sometimes so busy in the work that she forgets the right time at which she should feed the baby. And baby has to cry. And then she's, "Oh my God, I forgot." Yes, you have time to feed. And then she takes care of the child, and child is happy after that. But the moral of the story is that sometimes in such intimate relationships, there is no more intimate than mother and child. This is the most sacred, most intimate, most affectionate relationship. Even in such relationships, gap can arise between the need and its supply to meet it. So that means the system has to learn. We have to learn to articulate our needs. And we have to, similarly, there are people who may not articulate their need, but then we will continue to do research in our system and we may not notice them. Let me give you an example of that. And you will see this. There are 4 cobblers here: India, Afghanistan, Mongolia, China. And this is the tool most of you must have seen with a cobbler, shoe mender, who uses it. When this tool was designed, what kind of shoes did we have when the tool was originally designed? Anybody? More than 100 years ago? Anybody wants to write in the chat what kind of shoes we had?
Maybe wooden.
No, shoes. Yes. Anybody? You can type it also.
Leather.
Leather shoes. But why did we need this tool? Any idea? What is the major utility of this tool? This iron triangle that you see here. There are colleagues from CLRI here.
It is support for the supporting for that shoes.
So what
we can pin that sport. We can pin that to shoes using that support. We need 2 binders. That's, I think.
See, when the shoes had nails, Sunil, when shoes had nails, the leather shoes that you rightly mentioned, we needed this device to hammer their nails, right? Now the shoes have
basically.
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, in that village also they used to fix that leather on that when we have a in Rajasthan we call mochdi.
No, that's true. The leather bag. Yeah, but what I'm saying, Sunil, is that
So in that case we can use that thing.
correct for repairing, for mending, but generally for hammering, right? Now we have shoes, and mind you, this is Mongolia poorer than us, China richer than us. Now the shoes need adhesive, correct? So when you put adhesive between two layers and you put a hammer, what will happen? It will vacuum created. Air will rush in. And if air bubbles get rushed in, then they will make the joint weaker. So what you need is you put the adhesive, let it aerate for a while, and then you put a clamp. Or you put a stitching machine. Mongolia has a stitching and clamp. China has stitching and clamp. Even the arrangement of sitting is much better there. And here outside Niti Aayog office, outside Krishi Bhavan in Delhi, right in the heart of Delhi, where all the policymakers sit there. And CSIR office is not too far from Krishi Bhavan, just about 100 meters from there. And there we are seeing cobblers using this tool. Now he is a service provider. He provides service to us, the people who have to get our shoes repaired. Our shoes technology has changed. The tools of this person have not changed. That person, for some reason, is not resourceful enough to innovate and come out with a better tool. Some people are able to do that. Some people are not able to do that. Inertia continues. Nothing changes for a long time. But other countries have done it. So there, the things improve. They're able to stitch it faster. And if you go to the net, you will find shoe stitching.
No, नहीं खुलता एक बार देख
You are not audible, sir.
You're not audible, sir.
तो हैंग हो गया यार.
अच्छा.
Hello sir, you are not audible.
Voice is not coming, sir.
You are not audible.
I think I left the meeting.
I think sir is power cut, sir. I think current is gone.
Could be network issue.
Yeah.
So what should we do?
We should wait.
We should wait. Na?
Sir will join in a while, maybe.
Maybe. I think it's the power cut. I think disconnected from the.
I think there is a problem for light and all things. Weather condition is not
In
okay.
Gujarat, there is a problem of power because of the cyclone. So maybe there is a power cut. Sir will join in between, maybe.
Let's just wait for a minute.
Weather condition is not organized. North side.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, the connection gone out because of this storm. A lot of connections have become unstable, but I hope it will be. Megha, please share. Give me share option.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Here. Sir. There.
So I was discussing that when you look at this design, you realize that there is a problem in this design, and this should have been changed or modified, but it has not been modified till date. We still haven't given a stitching machine to our leather workers who mend our shoes. So what happens? The quality of my life cannot be better than the quality of the service I get in my life. And this is very important that we realize this. So this is a case where economic level of economic development doesn't influence it. It's a cultural issue. Mongolia is poorer than us, but they have solved this problem. China has solved this problem. Afghanistan couldn't, India couldn't. So my suggestion to you all is that please think about this problem. Now we go to one particular dimension where women suffer the consequences of inertia. This is a paddy transplantation. Many of you must have had rice in your lunch, or you may have rice at dinner time, and you would know probably that 90 to 95% of the paddy is transplanted in a back bending posture like this. Some of you have taken a cup of tea just as I am taking here. And the leaves, 2 leaves and the bud is picked up by hand, put it in the basket behind. And I do it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just 10 times, and I have pain here and here. They do it 3,000 times. Those of you who come from Siliguri or Northeast would know this. You must have seen it. And yet, problem continues. When we take a cup of tea, we don't feel the pain of the lady who's picked up this leaf, the bush. And those of you who think about scissor, please remember when you use a scissor to cut, that's the lowest quality of tea because you're not able to select the buds. It's a good quality tea required, but to select it, as you all, many of you know that. In IHBT, they have tea gardens. So those of you who are from IHBT would know this even more intimate than many others. So the question that arises is, and that third example is, of course, the chula. Please mute everybody. Hello? Yeah. So it's very important from these things. And here, in Chula, hardly 14% combustion efficiency. A country which can put 104 satellites in a single launch in different orbits, which has sent the missions to Mars and Moon, can't solve this problem? I can't believe it. Then why these problems remain unsolved? And the rate of technological change in the things that women do somehow tends to be slower than the thing that men do. So we need to ask ourselves this question, that it is not just that inertia is common across all domains and for all the beings. No, there's a gender dimension here. The problems, the activities that women do somehow undergo much slower change. Some of you might know when you work in the kitchen, and of course nowadays even the men should and do work in the kitchen, but when you take the boiling vessel of hot milk from the flame, Mohan, please. What do? We use a piece of cloth to lift the vessel. Piece of cloth. We couldn't design good tongs in all these years. So the question is, why has this inertia persisted? Why couldn't we notice these problems? Even though some of these domains are there where we are working. So naturally, there is some problem is arising. So we need to read the history separately, differently. Anybody knows who is the author of this book? If you have gone through the outline, you would know. Mothers and daughters of invention. Anybody? Anybody has an idea? Nobody? That means you have not gone through the outline, which is given there. Not even one. My suggestion is there are a lot of readings given. Some of you might be interested in looking at those papers.
Autumn Stanley.
That's right. That's right. Autumn Stanley. So Autumn Stanley spent 13 years of her life, 13 years of her life in writing this book. And what did she do? She analyzed the 200 years data of US Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, and found the share of women less than 1% during 1809 to 1985 in USA, United States of America. And another decade, it had hardly increased to 4 to 8%. That's all. There were many reasons she gives in this book. I have shared with you one chapter of this book. The entire book is not available on net, but of course it is available on the Amazon, and some of you might like to buy an old copy of this book, not very costly, $5, $6, you can buy it. Those of you who are, yes, Ankit? Ankit, you have a question? Ankit, unmute yourself or to write on the chat. Because I'm not able to hear you. Maybe you are not able to hear me for some reason. So we will proceed, but if you can always come back and you can put your questions on the chat and I'll take it. The point I'm trying to drive home is that there has been a bias in all parts of the world, including USA, in addressing and doing justice to the creativity of it. And she shows example that, for example, Jacquard loom was invented by women. Pascal language was invented by women. There were so many things that by women. And yet, when it comes to finding examples of inventions and innovations, we don't seem to pay too much attention to them. And there is now a great effort going on that in STEM or SHAPE or other various aspects of science, technology, engineering, math, that we try to recognize the role of women, creative people, but still we are far behind than where we should be. Now, there are two issues here. One, that women, even in the formal sector, get neglected. Women in the informal sector get neglected. And some examples, even though exist for the improvement in the devices that we use or solutions that we have, but the innovations by the women somehow have been much lesser. There are two issues here. One is that women were denied the tools of blacksmithing and carpentry in our culture for millennia. You will seldom find a woman blacksmith or a woman carpenter. And nothing to do with the physical, because they do much heavier work. They carry 8 to 10 to 12 bricks on their head. So don't tell me that they can't do hard work. They do hard work, very hard work. So that's not the issue. The issue is that they have not been given sufficient space, cultural space, the intellectual space for expressing their creativity. That was one reason. Second was that they were told, right, culturally, they have to go to different house after marriage. They have to adapt, they have to adjust, they have to adapt, they have to adjust. And it got ingrained. So rather than transcending the problems, some of them, not all of them, some of them ended up adjusting to them. And this is not a problem only with women. Men also do that, unfortunately. But it's much more so there, because there are two things here, and I would like to mention these two issues to all of you. One is autonomy. Second is agency. Autonomy is freedom to take decision. Agency is ability and willingness to use the freedom. All of us have autonomy, much more autonomy than many other people in the world, and certainly in our country, in our labs. How many of us use this autonomy for the larger social good? Seldom. So it is very important, therefore, that we recognize. Ankit, you can type here. If you're not getting the unmute, you can type it here. I will note down your question. Can you type down? If you're not able to speak, your mic is not unmuting, then you can type it. I will come back to you. Whenever you type it, I'll come back. So please understand, we had one lady, Ganga Bhan, in 1898, she wrote a book, Hunar Mahasagar, a kind of encyclopedia of skills. And she put together 2080 examples of self-employment, things that we can use to generate our jobs. Yes, Amrish? Go ahead, Amrish. Can we allow him to?
No, sir, nothing. No, sir, nothing. Please go ahead.
Okay, so your hand was raised by mistake, maybe. Doesn't matter. So now let us look at some abstract part. We have looked at some empirical cases, and another 20 minutes, 15 minutes we'll spend on a little bit of dry dimensional of this process. And I would like you to do some work together with me and with us. And wherever you need some response, of course, Anamika would respond to you because she knows the subject as well as I. So let us look at these different stages of what moves creative people intrinsically and extrinsically to take initiative. So what we are saying is there are triggers. And then there is an initiative. And then sometimes initiatives become innovation. And then innovation should diffuse, and there's a feedback. Sometimes the innovations don't diffuse, they get discontinued, they get rejected. Sometimes they are experimented with and they are improved upon, their derivative innovation take place, and all of these feedbacks to more initiative. So every time I take initiative, as Neha was mentioning, when she was in college, she got the response. Then she got courage to take more initiatives. But if your initiatives are curbed every now and then, you might become diffident. You may become indifferent. You may become a little bit cynical. And unfortunately, you have to take steps to overcome that. So how do we do that? Let us look at this step. First thing is intrinsic motivation. And I would like you to add in the chat if you think that there are motivations which are not mentioned here. So one of the motivation intrinsically is I'm not happy with what is happening around me. I'm not happy with the problem that I'm facing every day. Or I love nature and I'm finding that nature is not being treated properly in my campus, in my life, in my society, in my community. I don't find many watering points for pots for birds in the summer. That affects me. So I do something. That is intrinsic motivation. Nobody asked me. Nobody's going to award me. Nobody's going to punish me if I didn't do that. From within, this feeling is coming. There are values, either utilitarian or consequentialist. Consequentialist means, what is the impact of my action on others? Utilitarian, what is the utility for me, or people I love, or people I admire? So it depends whether you want to look at third-party consequences or your consequence for yourself. But that's a part of value system. Some of us are affected by the problem that other people face during pandemic. As I mentioned in the last class, our colleagues are making bread in the morning, feeding the wards of the patient who are not able to take care of themselves because they're not able to go home. They're waiting outside. Their parents, their relatives or their children or their mother is in critical condition. They can't go home at that moment. How do they get food? And maybe there's nobody else in the family who can bring food for them. So our colleagues are trying to help. Many people are doing that. All over the country, people are trying to do that through their intrinsic motivation. Nobody's asked them to do it. They're doing it. God bless them. Curiosity. You are bugged by a problem. The other day, there was a very beautiful article. I have tweeted it. Some of you might notice it. How come this notion that you should have 6 feet distance? So this scientist went into the history of finding out how did the norm of 6 feet distance evolve in pandemic for viral. And he said it was because of the 5 or 6 nanometer length of the virus, and it was considered that if they move with the droplet, that is the farthest distance to which they could travel. Then he tried to look at the literature, look at the data, look at the files, look at the papers, and he found that evidence about virus being airborne was available long ago, more than 60 years ago. It was evident to people. Why was this evidence ignored? And why didn't we develop different norms? And why didn't we therefore think of other precautions that we are now becoming concerned about? We are now realizing, now WHO has accepted that it is airborne. It took 1 year, but it was known even 1 year ago to us. That's what the scientists have shown to us. So what I'm saying is that curiosity of some scientists, how did this norm evolve? How did this principle evolve? Is it correct principle? Is that not, is it, this principle is not the reason why we are having so many infections, etc., etc. So obviously, if you have airborne, you will have a different practice of air circulation. And you will not do too many things in the room, even if you are having distance, the air in the room still have more. That's why in the houses you are noticing that one person gets infected, the whole family is getting infected now. So they may or may not keep the distance, that's a different matter, but even if they keep the distance, they are in different rooms, still because air is not getting circulated outside, it is going to circulate within the house, the virus is spread. So curiosity can be one reason why we take initiative. Need to excel, some of us wanted to be outstanding. And that's a great motivation, that's a great intrinsic motivation. I must be better than others, I must do better than others, I must do faster than others. And of course, concern for collective good. Now, please add what are the missing, and of course, risk taking. Gambler. I'm a gambler. I want to take an adventure sport emerged because of gambling instinct or because of risk taking instinct, you can say. So, any one of you would like to add anything which is intrinsic from within and which motivates you to take initiative? Anybody? Would you like to add any factor which motivates you?
Sir, the people suffering, sir, I am Anjali from CSI News Trivandrum.
Yeah.
I think people's suffering is the best motivation for research, I hope.
Okay. So not just personal dissatisfaction, but concern for collective good, right? Something
Yes,
for okay, that's one. But can you sharpen it further? Which kind of, whose suffering would affect you more? Anybody's on the street or those
of course,
who
sir,
love?
people suffering, I mean, it's scientifically what we can do for others. That
When you chose
sir,
the problem,
for example, a man who will be handicapped, that who will be having a seat, without a seat he will be attaining, he will be walking or not walking, he will be scribbling, that whether we are able to produce a platform with a wheel, that is that makes an invention.
okay, or yes, Ashwini, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I think one of the reasons could be to improve yourself. That is to excel to, create higher targets to yourself and trying to achieve that.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm looking for something that I have missed here. I mean, one of my doctoral students, Ria, had worked with me on this. On both of us work together. We are trying to modify it now. So are there any other factors that you feel would be responsible for motivating me from within? Suffering of others, need to excel, concern for nature, personal
hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
If you want to motivate like a school students and like college students, then we can tell like an innovative stories of the research. So they have curious to know about that innovative experiment, and then they will think about the experiment and then they give
All right. So what you're saying is that getting exposed. Yeah, Sunil, I got your point that if you your network, your voice is not clear.
School students want to know some basic of the research, but when they have no idea about it, yeah, like.
Yeah. So what you're saying is,
Am I
that,
audible? Hello.
yeah,
Hello?
you're saying that exposure to good stories of innovation can motivate people from within. It can also be called as extrinsic motivation because I'm inducing you to think about those people who are solved. But when you were a student, many of you, all of you were in school, did you read about innovations by common people in any textbook, in any class, ever? Anybody? Or even in your MSc and PhD courses, how many times the innovations, let's say by ordinary people, or for that matter, even ordinary workers, have been discussed in your lab, in your class?
Hello, sir. This is Bharat from IGIB.
Bolo.
So we had a case study in, I think, 10th class in which a garbage collector from Bangalore had used plastic to construct roads.
Yes.
So
Actually, this was the work of professor from Thiagarajan College of Engineering, Madurai. That was the first time he did it. Venu, what was his name? Venu Gopal or somebody like that. He developed this concept first. And I'm happy that you were exposed to this story. Up to 10% of bitumen can be saved if you use
yes,
basic
sir.
plastic. Very, very nice. Is that the only example you have? Any other example?
Yeah, that's the only example I remember of. It was in NCERT curriculum. So
Okay.
that's how I remember.
But you know, this, I mean, I know the NCERT fellows very well. I've been telling them this issue, that if you include right from every class, because the youngest child we gave an award was class 1 in Virudnagar near Madurai. Class 1. He got an award at the hand of Dr. Kalam. So there is no age at which children cannot or people cannot identify an unmet need and solve it. My question is, exposure or role models, which is of course extrinsic motivation. Role models can motivate. Let us look at extrinsic motivations.
Can I
Yes.
just add here, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, in DSIR, that is the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, we had a program, Technopreneur Promotion Program.
Yes, TAP program.
So under that program, we used to encourage any citizen, any innovative idea, to convert that idea into a workable model. So that was the program in which we had encouraged a lot of.
Yeah, I was on the steering committee and also the there used to be monthly meeting of that program. 1998 it was started.
Yes, sir.
After GIAN was set up in 97, and Dr. Mashelkar got inspired and he said, this is a great triangle, innovation, investment, enterprise. And the TAP program started in 1998. And it did a great job in terms of supporting large. Even GIAN's, many innovators of GIAN in the initial period got grants from TAP to convert their innovations into products.
Now that program is called PRISM, sir. In
Yeah,
DSI,
but it has gone in a different direction now. That energy has gone somehow, but maybe it will come back someday. So the point I'm trying to drive home is that you're right, that there are programs of this kind, but they are not getting incorporated. Those stories are not getting incorporated in the curriculum, in the discussion, everyday discussion in different labs. So perhaps we need to bring more examples in our everyday conversation. Maybe we need to do something to introduce more examples of some of you who are not aware, you should go to the site gyti.techpedia.in. And there we give awards to MSc and PhD students, generally more PhD, but also some MSc and rarely undergraduate. 15 lakh rupees for 2 years for translational research called Sitare Gyati Award from Department of Biotechnology, BioRec, Life Sciences. And for other disciplines, we give a SRISTI Gyati Award. And similarly, we have an international award, HPN Kriya, which was mentioned last time, And Anamika would please put it on the chat, the email for that also, so that, or Megha, you can put it, so that we can give recognition. So extrinsic motivation is also recognition. Social approval, recognition from outside, incentives, awards, monetary, non-monetary, they can motivate people. I agree. I agree. Social disapproval. Sometimes people don't like if you are not solving a problem, if you are too much lethargic or inertia is too high. So I have mentioned many reasons here, several constraints. Concern for workers motivates you. Some people are by temperament more samvedansheel. They have greater empathy or samvedana in them. They also are, there are people who are great builder on others' ideas. They may not be original thinker, but they can improve any idea. When you give them, they can improve upon it. So they are great derivative innovator. They may not be original thinker. That's fine. Not everybody can be original thinker. A lot of us bake the bricks which an architect will use in a new design and build a new building. So some people bake bricks, some people make designs, some people put them together. That's how the new buildings of ideas, the new building of innovations are formed. So different ways are given, some different factors are given. If anybody wants to add anything, I will look at the chat if anything has come here. Yes, I can mention here GYTI techpedia.in, and for applying this for this award, you have to go to BIREC.res.in. So you have to apply at BIREC site. Awards are given by Honeybee Network and SRISTI and GIAN. All of us are involved, but SRISTI manages it, and BIREC provides the resources for it. And there's a committee which looks at it. So there are several awards have been given. I will show you some examples in the line after break. And then there is a award which is also given for, there's a global award. This is HVNTria.GIAN.org, Honeybee Network Creativity and Inclusive Innovation Award. This is given, Anamika, I would appreciate if you can show some examples of that today. That would be very nice after the break. Problem faced in one's own life. Yes, that is the intrinsic motivation. That is intrinsic motion theory. I am looking for both. That personal dissatisfaction or constraint comes as intrinsic. Extrinsic is when somebody from outside induces us to innovate. It's important because our motivations, we need to understand our motivations, and that will help us to know which areas, which dimensions of our personality or our life should we make sharper so that we can see those problems which others are not able to see. Innovators have that quality. They see something that others have not seen. So before I proceed further, there is a spreadsheet that we have. I'm going to circulate it to all of you. I hope all of you have access to the laptop or computer just now with you. Anamika, have you shared this spreadsheet with everybody? Or you can type this, can we enter the spreadsheet that you made? Accidental innovation, yes. Serendipity. The rubber is a good example. Dunlop, when he came to the lab and looked at how some petri dishes were joined together, and that's how the rubber, synthetic rubber, was invented. So you are right. Serendipity is one of the ways in which many times innovations have happened. Sometimes you also know how benzene formula was discovered. So you see it in dreams. You just have intuitively, it occurs to you. Yes. Responsibility, that's an interesting dream, that benzene formula was in dreams. As responsibility, Ivan, that's the very point. Can you clarify that point? Ivan, can you clarify that point? It's a good point. Ivan, can you?
I like right now I am an educated person, so I have some social responsibility to do something. So I was thinking in that way.
Correct. When you are responsible for something, you have to find ways of improving upon that, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me that example from Kerala? Are you from Kerala?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what nurses did there?
I am not.
That in the last class. You know what nurses did there?
I don't know what you are actually.
Kerala is the only state where number of vaccinations done were more than the number of vials multiplied by number of units.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they were given about 6 lakh vaccinations, vials for 6 lakh vaccinations, approximately.
They have prepared 80,000
Yes, sir.
vials.
Yes. How did they do that? You remember?
Sir,
There will be extra shots, sir, in for wastage. So
So
they
what was
utilized
supposed
that.
to be the wasted material, they didn't waste it. Secondly, when they filled the injection, they didn't throw away even one drop out of it. They did it so skillfully. So
Yes,
the
sir.
nurses and the Prime Minister also acknowledged that contribution. Kerala was the only state which not only did not have any wastage, zero wastage, but had in fact used the little allowance that was available and vaccinated more than 80,000. That is a good example of the event that you made, that when you are given responsibility, you can be so creative and so skillful that you can achieve more than expected result by sheer sense of accountability, sense of responsibility toward the people whom you're trying to serve. I mean, there has been no better example than that. Nowhere in the country we had wastage rate varying from quite low to very high in all over the state. This was the only exception. And hats off to them, that out of sense of responsibility, that look, if I can get few people more extra vaccinated, so much pain would be lesser. And thanks to the teacher who, of course, missed the cabinet this time, but it doesn't matter, but she did some admirable work, Shalja teacher, health minister of that state, who motivated the nurses to do that. So it was, but the motivation was from within, I think, as far as I have read the story, they were all motivated from within to do this. It came out to be very great success. Yes. So 10 doses were in one vial and extra shot into vials. So Kerala nurses used all the shots and vaccinated more people. Good. Any other factor that you find? Can we share the spreadsheet, please? Link of the spreadsheet, Anamika. Let me do that. I have got that sheet. So this is the sheet. I'm going to share the link. Are you doing that? Yeah. So nobody, I'm putting the link, copy the link. So please look at this. You can open this link. Did you find it? This is Amrish. This point is also good, that sometimes you take a random shot and that helps in finding the solution. That's a good. So kindly open this spreadsheet. All of you, please open this spreadsheet. Have you opened? Yes. So kindly put your name, initial, email ID, lab, your study discipline, and then any unmet need that you are bothered about. It could be motivated by intrinsically or externally, doesn't matter. But quickly, let us take another 15 minutes, and each one of you can put one unmet need here, which has bothered you, it could be in your own discipline, it could be it could be in your lab, it could be in your institute, or it could be unrelated domain, doesn't matter. It could be in the family, it's up to you. And you can mention more than one also. So comma karke, you can put the comma and then put it. And the year of study and discipline you can fill up later on. So you can go right to the unmet need, and then those details can come later. By year of study, I mean which year? First year, second year, third year, final year. That will give us an idea how long you're going to be around us in the ACIR, CCIR, so that we can follow up with you and create some encouragement for you to work on it. Nani, I've shared the link again. And try to make your unmet need a little more precise, not too general, something more precise. For example, Kiran, if you're talking about accessibility, then talk about maybe in coastal areas. Is there a problem? Since you're in oceanography, you can find a need there, or in mountains, for example. So give a more specific context. Make it more precise, make it more general. Make it more precise, don't make it general. Something that is precise enough to be tackled. Don't mention about fellowship, because we have discussed that. That problem is already being tackled. I have also supported that. I have tweeted about you. And Dr. Anjan Ray is occupied with this problem. He's solving it. So let's not bring that problem here, though I know it is very important need. Adip, you can mention a more larger issue, but I know without survival, how could you do the larger issues? But maybe in virology itself, you could mention. You remember I gave an example in last class, milk as a viral disease control. Maybe you can tell us, you can do something on finding out the mechanism by which milk controls the type 2 RNA viruses. That mechanism still remains.
Actually, right now, I am fully basically unsatisfied with this problem, sir. Because
no, I know that. Look, we will not get into that because I have read your representations. No, you are right. I have read.
And I think the inertia of DBT community is high, at its highest level right now.
No, I know that. I was looking at only CSR, but I was not aware that even DBT JRF has a problem. But I'm sure DBT is trying to tackle that.
Excuse me, sir. Actually, that is the general perception. And so as this is a huge number of people are actually together. So I think this can be a very good platform to raise this issue, because people occasionally think that, or generally think that DBT gives a very limited amount of fellowship. So it is very good to get a DBT one.
No, you have made a point. I will convey this. I will convey this to the DBT secretary. I will do that tonight. Send me separately a mail. Don't bring it here. Send me a separate message. I promise to you that I will personally communicate this.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, I will do that, and I'll do it tonight. Somashri, yes, you were saying something about the needs, but my suggestion, Adip, remains that I'm very curious about the exact pathway by which the milk helps in inactivating the type 2 RNA viruses, whether it is RNase enzyme, whether it is protein which binds casein, or what does it do? How does it happen? Is there a protease which cuts the viral coat? I'm really keen if you can do something on that, small experiments, and figure it out. You can publish a good paper and also answer this question which has remained unaddressed properly. I mean, we have technology that it works. Why it works is not very clear. There are many hypotheses in the literature, but there is no conclusive. So I'll encourage you to tackle that problem. When will we get another virologist who wants to do something social? Yeah, Stika, you wanted to say something? Stika? That's a very useful point that you made, Ramesh. This is an idea which came, one child got award for this, Ignited Mind Award this time. That child said there should be a device for finding out pesticide residues in the fruit when you go to buy. You should either scan them or do something so that immediately you find out. A child gives this idea, such a nice thing. But the fact that you are noticing it, maybe you can make it possible. You are a student of chemistry, maybe you can develop its solution. But this is a need which all of us have. All the consumers who are aware about the pesticide residues want to check before they buy fruits and vegetables, how much residue is there. So if you can do something about it, it will be a great contribution. It will be a great contribution. It will be a great contribution. Please continue, do something about it. Can we have another few minutes, 5 more minutes to 5, 10 more, 7 more minutes? Let me read further. Plastic pollution is too general. Donto Ashok, can you make it more precise? Which kind of plastic? You know, there are different kinds of plastic. And there are different thickness of plastic. There are laminated plastic and non-laminated plastic. We have a real problem of how to process or recycle laminated plastic. So if you can make it more specific about how to process laminated plastic, which even rag pickers don't pick up because the laminated plastics do not find, they're not easy to process. So people don't buy them. So they are neglected. Many students have not put up anything. There are only 96, I find, who are doing that. But many students have not put up. Kindly put up. Astik, did you have a question or a comment to make? Please continue. Please continue. This point again, Amrish, the point that you mentioned again, there was an Ignite Award. Please do look up these awards. I will give you this site, nifindia.org/ignite. You will find many awards of the children. Many of the ideas that you are getting, children have already been recognized for this idea. So there are many accident warning systems that if a scooter falls down or a two-wheeler falls down, alarm will go to the nearest police station, and to the near dear ones, a message will go that something has happened.
Hi, I have sent another copy of the same sheet. Check if you can edit there, because the first sheet, maybe because it has a lot of traffic, so you're not able to edit. Let's check with the second one. I have copied the same one in the other one, and we can merge them later.
Why, there's a problem coming in this spreadsheet?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I didn't notice it. Well, you can use both the sheets then. Those who are not able to use one, you can use another one.
And also those who have already written, just exit so that others get some space.
Oh, is that the problem that when more than a given number cannot enter?
No. So many are accessing all together. So if they make room, maybe there will be some.
I don't know. I mean, Google spreadsheet probably doesn't have that constraint, but nevertheless.
No, because they are facing problem because of the traffic.
Okay, I understand.
That's why if some people make way, then.
Yes. Okay. Okay, Redmi, Rohit, there is another. Okay, Google form. Next time we will do that. You can update it later on. I think that is the point. I accept it. This is shared with you. Please copy this. This is a point, Pranay, this is an institutional problem, but I would only suggest that DBT had taken an initiative in STEAM, it is called INSTAM, under which the Principal Secretary, Scientific Advisor to Prime Minister's Office had taken the initiative. DBT has implemented that all the equipments that are available in different labs are put on a portal so that students can use equipments across the lab. Is it working? Is that system working? Are you able to use the lab equipments in other labs also, other CSIR labs or other DBT labs? Any student has used it? Because this is a good point that sometimes there's a long queue when the equipments are few in your own lab. So your research gets delayed. Manisha is saying that the same problem with the second sheet also, Anamika. So what we do, one suggestion has come that we should give a Google form. And in a Google form, this problem apparently doesn't come. So next time we will take care. We will just proceed further. Let me look at. So, okay, so let's look at styrofoam, okay. All right, the numbers have gone down. What happened? This is the second list I'm seeing now. So pesticide idea is a good one. Light from digital screens. That's a very interesting problem, Keshav, that you mentioned. All of us are exposed to a lot of light, even though we can use darker screen, but these are problems which are genuine. Shehbaz, we will take care of that. We will send you the Megha. Can you make a Google form quickly? Megha?
Yes, sir, making. Yeah.
Just make it so that then it becomes easier for them.
Okay, sir.
We will stopping the sharing now. So yes, you're right. The rock is used in villages for cleaning the hand. You're right. You're right. I have two suggestions to amplify this spreadsheet, which we will fill up later, as you said. And it won't take too much time. It will take about 15 minutes. Chankit, we are solving this problem. Chankit Giri, we will be solving this problem. We'll be sharing with you the Google form in a few minutes, and that you can fill up. Later on, we'll merge everything together. So don't worry about it. And we'll share with all of you. So that should not be, I understand. Kritika, I'm sorry about that, but we will fill it up. We will solve this problem quickly. Who's the screen I'm sharing? Can you unshare the screen? Who's Megha, who is sharing the screen? Anamika, you are sharing the screen?
No, I'm not. Let me just stop it. Just give me a moment.
Can you do that, please? Yes, you can add more sheets, so you can add one more column after the unmet needs and make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's for Tripuri. It is possible. It is possible. We will modify. Can you add need 1, need 2, need 3 like that, Anamika?
What?
In the spreadsheet, can you add more than one need, unmet need?
Yes, I can. Just give me a second. I just need to stop this one first.
Yeah, please stop. Yes, thank you. Thank you. No, still.
Yes, no, I just had to do it because that was just a, like as everybody was telling yesterday, Jugaad. So I just had to start sharing so that the other one stopped because we didn't know who was doing that.
All right, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So my suggestion is that you, we will continue further. We'll have a break of about 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes break, fitness break we will take. If you want to relax, you want to stretch yourself, stand, do some waving of your hands, do various exercises just because you have been sitting for such a long time. And I will appreciate that we take 5 minutes break. Stay on those, but I will in the meanwhile keep reading your quotes, but you can also stand if you want to. So that will be easier for you to stretch your legs. You can stretch your hands. Very important that we don't keep sitting just without disturbing us.
And I have shared a link for Google Form.
Okay, you have shared. Very nice, very nice. The Google Form is there. For those of you who can't edit, please use the Google Form. Ashwin has shared it. Thank you so much, Ashwini. So Google Form is there. Please use that. And can you add, Ashwini, more choices of unmet needs so that if one wants to add more than one, they can do that. Can you do that?
But two currently, sir. Should I add 2 more?
If people want to add more than one need, can they do that?
They have added 2. Okay, it's updated.
Add more, 2, 3 maybe. Just give
4 added, sir.
So just add 4. Unmet need 1, 2, maybe 3, 4. And you can do comma and add in that also way. So you can do a comma and then. Very good, very good, very good, very good, very good. All right. Good. So form is where is reasonable. I've seen the form, it's okay. So we will have a break till what the time? 7:01, 7:05 till 7:05. We will have a break. Please stretch yourself. Please hands. Do little exercise. Drink water.
कितने लोग होंगे सर? कितनी families होंगे?
Anamika, your mic is on. Anamika, your mic is on. Anamika, your mic is on. So, friends, you can stretch yourself another 3-4 minutes. Do some exercises. Move your fingers. Yes, Namili Konda, Shravan Kumar, you can either fill the sheet afterwards or you can use Google Form, whichever way you want. That's perfectly fine. We are going to move to the next topic, but we wanted to do it now because it will help us to focus. And some good points, some very precise points have come, which can lend themselves to a technological project. Pesticide measurement, in residue measurement in the field. I mean, while you're going to shop something, kind of a hand-operated solution is a good one. I mean, if that can get done, I think we would have made something useful today. It will save the problems of millions of consumers in the country and the world, maybe all over the world. This product can go. So it's very good that many of you have done that. Form is there now. Shabaz, you can use now form. Rohit, you can use form. Redmi, you can use form. So form has been shared by Ashwini. Kindly use that form. Yes. Shish, we have solved the problem now, so you can use the form. Sorry about the problem that you faced. Akshay, okay, because of mobile you're facing problem. Okay. So we'll wait for 2 more minutes. 7:03. Please stretch yourself. Take some water. Little bit of action of the hands. Mehda, this is the same form that Ashwini has shared, or you have made another form?
Sir, this is the same form.
Same form. That's right. Ashwini has shared. So whatever you fill in the form will come in the Excel sheet. That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. So yes, this was a mistake on our part. And Ashwini is obviously more smart in this matter than I am. So thank you. Thank you, Ashwini. You know, new generation has much better understanding of how the online technologies work. And I always have someone to help me in the class, so I haven't had to learn so much. Please stretch your hands and legs. Please relax for a few minutes. Anamika, can you take, I'll give you 10 minutes, maybe when you can, 10 or 15, whatever time you need. Can you share the HBN Kriya results, some of the results, so that there will be motivation, extrinsic motivation for them to submit their ideas? Anamika? And can we create a Moodle also for this course so we can upload the material which people can download? Is it possible? Ashwini, do you use Moodle?
No, sir, not at headquarter level, but yeah, individual labs, they do use some of them.
Acha. So let's try to use a Moodle platform for uploading various things that we are talking. So we want to share some. We can
definitely look into this platform, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please look at that. So what happens that people want to look up some PPT later on, that PPT can be available there. Of course, we will also share in a Google folder. Mega, we should also share Google folder with everybody.
Yes, sir.
Google folder?
Yes, sir. I have. I'm sharing the link.
Share the link. Share it. Rahul, you are still facing the problem in Google form also? Rahul? Or is it an old message? Rahul, you are saying, no, others have done. So, all right. So we will come back. We will.
Sir, I'm fine.
Yes, okay. Okay. So let's. Okay, so we were looking at nature of motivation, and we looked at two kinds of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. And as was clear, many of you were motivated by your own problem. Some of you were motivated by the societal problems. So we found examples of both motivations, intrinsic and extrinsic. My guess is, from what I saw, most of you were motivated from extrinsic problems, but your motivation was intrinsic. That is, nobody had to tell you to do this. Now let us look at triggers. There are different kinds of triggers which lead to initiative. We have listed down these unmet needs. Course will end. Some of you will forget about them, but some of you might take up some steps and continue to work on them. You can, Roshni, you can use either of them. You can use Google Form or you can use spreadsheet. It's up to you. We will pull them all together. So it's entirely up to you. Priyanka, what was your question? I couldn't get it. What did you ask? Can you repeat? What exactly are you asking? Unmet option. Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. Sir, actually, इसमें unmet के like there are 4 options for unmet 1, unmet 2. So
That
what does
4
it
option
mean?
Meaning,
actually?
if you want to add more than one unmet need, you can use 4, up to 4 or 5.
Or some regarding problems or something we can add on this.
Correct,
form,
correct.
Right?
You can add 4
Okay.
unmet
Thank you so
needs.
much.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you, sir.
yeah. All right. Now, when these, this is the folder which Megha has shared. where we have put the material of each class. So kindly keep this folder copy saved with you on your copy on your computer. You save it, and we will also make a group, Google group folder, a mail, which will send you by mail. Mega, we will also make a Google group of all the class, all the people who have registered. Ashwini, is it better? Do you have a common mail account for all of them?
No, sir, I have not done that yet.
Okay, we will get it done. We will get it done. So Mega, please make a Google group of all the students whose email Ashwini has sent us, and then mail, they will be sent the link of the Google form. They will also be sent the link of the spreadsheet. They will be sent the link of Google folder where all the material of the course is lying. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And this PPT that I'm showing and all of this will be there. So in the session, which session, whatever I use in whichever class I or Anamika use, we'll share it. So now next question is that what triggers us to move from identification of a need to taking an initiative? This is $1 million question. As I was saying, some of us will leave it here, course will end and nothing will change, unfortunately. But some of you might feel motivated that, look, why don't we do something about it? Why don't we find out the mechanism of some problem which has been there? Why don't we look at this possibility that which can solve problems of people? For example, shelf life of tomato. We have one of the award we gave, HPN3 award, was to farmer in Andhra Pradesh who found a herbal solution for increasing the shelf life of tomato. Now, those of you who are working in CFTRI or are working in, for that matter, NBRI, could perhaps look at that technology and improve upon it further if you wish. If he has increased it by 15 days, maybe you can increase it by 3 weeks without using the refrigerator. Isn't that great? That will help farmers save so much of biomass, bioproductivity, because every time when the production is too much, people throw tomatoes on the street, as you know. Many places people suffer. They don't enough money to even pluck the tomatoes from the field. So there are some very practical solutions that grassroots innovators have developed, which you can improve, or you can develop innovations of your own. Doesn't matter. Innovation for grassroots, innovation from grassroots. What are the triggers? Triggers could be crisis, for example, pandemic. So we did a study. Anamika and I looked at all the UNDP Innovation Acceleration Lab database, and we found that foot pedal dispenser of sanitizer and foot pedal dispenser of water for hand washing. It came up almost in all countries in the world, more than 90 countries at that time. How did it happen? Did they learn from each other? No, I think it was simultaneous innovation. People felt that we don't want to touch it, and yet sanitizer should fall on our hand. Very simple. Put a bottle on the hang it bottle, put a small rope, put a pedal, spring pedal, press it, bottle will tilt it, sanitizer will fall on your hand, and adjust the angle to which it tilts. This mechanism, with some modification, variations here and there, all over the world, people are doing that. So the trigger can be disaster, trigger can be a crisis, and that can generate. A lot of people develop Bluetooth devices for distance. If anybody comes closer to me within 2 meters, I will get an alarm, because I can't see people coming closer to me from backside. But there was almost like a circular ring, invisible ring, which will, if crossed, will indicate to me immediately, and I can move my way and turn and see who's coming close to me. There were devices of this kind developed by the innovators around the world. So what I'm saying is that that can be a very important trigger. Crisis can be an important trigger. Yesterday, I shared 3 or 4 models of motorcycle-based ambulance. In rural areas, you don't even have good roads. Forget about good vehicles. But there are motorcycles in many places. So Taraku, Ajay Taraku, and many others have developed motorcycle-based ambulance in Chhattisgarh, in Dhar district, in Madhya Pradesh, and many other places. In Uganda, it was developed in 2013, many years ago. So this idea has taken off, and the problem constraints that are available in the environment trigger an innovation. Nobody had thought about motorcycle-based ambulance maybe a decade ago or 2 decades ago, but now it's spreading very rapidly because there's a problem. We have to take the patient to the hospital. How do we take them when there are no vehicles and there are no other devices? So solutions emerge because there's a pressing need. Now this raises another question. How do we make a need pressing? That depends upon us. Some people feel, all right, this has been happening, some people will die, it's okay. Some people say, no, even one death, unavoidable death is too much and we must do something about it. Socio-cultural factors can also trigger. Some of us are affected by the discrimination in society. Gender discrimination, caste discrimination, class discrimination, and many times solutions emerge because of that. There could be household triggers, economic trigger, serendipity, as some of you mentioned earlier, the lack of compatibility, dissatisfaction with the current practice as we discussed earlier. Analogic trigger, you know, when Swiss scientists look at that Popelberg idea of Velcro came from there. So biomimicry is another way, another trigger. Many times you notice in nature, lotus leaf on which water does not stick gave an idea to Volvo for making a paint on which water will not stick and therefore paint will last on the car for longer period. From lotus leaf surface physics to the design of the paint, and the surface of that paint would mimic the behavior of lotus leaf. So we'll see more examples later, but there can be many triggers. You find some application somewhere, some solution, and then you transpose it to another context. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, there was an innovator in Visakhapatnam who looked at a groundnut digging machine. Now imagine in Rajasthan, Yusuf had developed groundnut digging machine. And he wanted to use it for cleaning sea beaches. Mechanism was same, but application was so far removed from arid west to humid south. Here, trigger was the mechanism. That innovator thought, oh, this is a very interesting mechanism. It picks up the groundnut. There's a stirrer. It drops the soil. Maybe the sand will be dropped. The trash will come on the sea. So I can collect the trash lying on the sea beach in the same way. So there can be many triggers. Anybody else, any trigger which is not mentioned here comes to your mind here? Any one of you? Any one of you? Have you come across any other trigger which is not mentioned here? In your own research or in the research of your colleagues, your professors, have you noticed some trigger which is not mentioned here? You want to say something? Are you speaking? Please mute everybody, then unmute. So now you can unmute yourself and mention if there's any trigger that you think is important, which can, political trigger, yes, that can be possible. I mean, sometime when Lal Bahadur Shastri, it's a good example, let me give you. When Lal Bahadur Shastri during 1966, 67, after the 65 war, 66, not 67, 66, when he came, he gave a call to the nation on All India Radio. At that time, there were no televisions. And he said, we have grain shortage. US has stopped the PL 488. And we have a drought in the country. Can you please stop eating grain on Monday evening? And a lot of ways in which people respond. Some restaurants said, we will not offer any dish made of grains. So that was a response even beyond what Prime Minister Shastri was saying at that time. recently when Prime Minister asked people to donate, to contribute the subsidy, to forego the subsidy on gas connection, millions of people decided to forego the subsidy on the gas connection voluntarily. They were entitled to it, but they said, no, if it helps somebody else get a gas connection, we will not take. It's a different matter that those who were given the gas connection, their ability to get second gas connection was not always tracked in many cases, but nevertheless, many people got first-time gas connection only because other people forego. Yes, Ashwini?
Yes, sir. Another trigger can be denial of technology. So like when we...
Yes. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This happened with us in two cases. It happened in the case of Param. I will write down here. Denial of technology by the developed countries. And you can't hear me, Damini? Damini, you can't hear? I hope, Damini, you can hear me. I'm not sure. Who else is raising hand? Ivan, you wanted to say something? Please go ahead.
Sir, I think one more trigger will be laziness.
Sorry?
Laziness can be a trigger, sir, sometimes.
Yes. I know. There are some students, children who gave ideas only because they were too lazy to do things. And they thought, why can't this be done like that, or that can be done like that? There could be sensor and so on and so forth. I mean, you're right. Laziness can, to just increase our comfort. I mean, the remote control for television must have been of one such innovation. Earlier, we used to get up and change the channel. Now we can press the channel just like that. So it increases convenience, but it also makes us lazy. We don't get up from our seat. We don't get up off the bed. So it's a good point. Let's to come back to the old example that Ashwini had mentioned, and I would like to elaborate. When denial of technology can trigger. So Param computer was developed because supercomputer was denied to us. And Vijay Bhatkar and others in CDAC developed Param, which was a parallel computers. Many computers put in parallel achieved very high speed, and our weather department, meteorological department uses that Param computers. And of course, we also use that in defense and other areas, but those are not in public knowledge. What is public knowledge is the meteorological department. Amrish, you were saying something, please.
Sir, one reason could be less aware or lack of awareness.
You mean to say that I don't know that some other solution exists, so I end up inventing a new solution myself. Is that what you're saying?
Sir, might be the people are not aware of that, maybe that problem. So maybe that region could be help to trigger.
No, we are looking at what facilitates taking initiative. So are you saying that those who are not aware that there is a solution existing, they end up independently developing the same solution again? Is that what you mean? That is true.
Yes.
That happens.
Yes.
That happens. We have rediscovery of the wheel, scarcity of the resources. Yes, you're absolutely right. The scarcity of the resources does generate innovation. The India was the first country which developed a language of communication using missed call. So if I give one missed call, that is the answer. If I give you two missed calls, this is what I mean. And people used to communicate without spending money on the call because call was very costly at that time. So missed call, language of missed call became one of the innovation by the users themselves. Nobody could give that idea. Similarly, I remember in Delhi, in Bhagirath Place, you could get a SIM when there were nobody manufactured mobile phone with more than one SIM. India had some hackers who had developed another SIM which could be attached to this existing mobile phone with some small changes in the system. So this was an innovation because there was a scarcity of that need, and not all networks will not work equally well. So those who wanted to do business wanted to have another SIM in the same mobile. I remember when we were in Purulia Shodhyatra, we noticed that there were some people who were trying to charge the batteries with some leaves, and we said, what is it? So then we discovered that there are 3 buttons on this battery, and if you put a blocker in one of them and keep the 2 intact, then there's a reserve charge in the battery which can be harnessed. So they were not charging it, they were just extracting the reserve battery, which if all the 3 points are joined, you cannot get it. And we saw it with our eyes that people were able to do that. So there are many solutions of this kind which are scarcity driven. Very good point. Very good point. Anything else? Any other trigger that leads to the taking initiative? Yes, in accessibility, that's also scarcity. You are not able to get. Emergency, yes, disaster, crisis, emergency can trigger solutions. You're right, you're absolutely right that in the Second World War, people had used coconut water as a saline. So yes, that was an emergency use. Thank you. So we will go further. We will go further and look at other factors. So what do we do when we take initiative? So there is a practice or a product that we are developing, and we want to do experiments. Experiment may be possible with the existing domain of domain knowledge, or I may have to acquire a new domain knowledge. I'm a carpenter, I also learn about blacksmithing. And that's how I can take an initiative to learn something new and solve the problem. Many of you might have acquired new skills because your problem of research required those skills to be acquired. Inputs are required, your own inputs, or you borrow from somewhere else. That can trigger experimentation, availability of the inputs. Or risk, your own risk or risk of others. So I remember one very interesting example where in Malaysia, in the coastal areas, the handsets of that, there used to be telephone kiosk, as you remember, olden time. We had to go to the kiosk, put the coin, and then make a call. So the handsets of these kiosks were disappearing. So somebody then, what is this happening? Why somebody takes away the handset? They found that the fishing community had found a very novel use. And what was the novel use? When they used to catch fish, they were not sure where the fish are. So schools of the fish is mobile, fugitive resource. So you spend whole day and you're not able to catch enough fish. So they took a battery, attached 2 terminals of the phone, that handset phone, to that, and it made a squeaking sound. It became a sonar trap for the fish. Now they reduce their risk of not getting fish because they will be able to easily attract the fish to that sound which was produced by the telephone. What an imagination. Can you imagine? We published in Honeybee in 90s, this example. So experimentation, somebody must have done an experiment. Some crazy idea must have come to his or her mind. So initiatives are not enough if they don't lead to the experimentation. Sometimes I take initiative, but I want somebody else to solve my problem. Some of you say, sir, I'm busy with my research project. I cannot solve this problem of SRISTI. Somebody else should do that. I have given an idea. Idea has been there for a long time, but somebody did not take initiative. Maybe you can motivate your younger student, junior student, and say, why don't you take this as a thesis problem? And that might become a solution. So it's very important that we look at, we convert our initiative into experimentation and then take up trial. Now, trials can have repeated failure. You know, very famous story of Edison, 900 times he failed. Gradual improvement, the improvement is not enough. Persistent struggle. Or quick success. And there could be other ways. Many of the repurposed drugs actually are side effects. So when aspirin was used for headache, and then it was found that it also helps in thinning the blood, that was a new use of an existing product. Similarly, 2DG, the new drug that DRDO released yesterday, is a very old drug for cancer. It was used, more than 15, 20-year-old drug. It's not a new molecule. It has been repurposed for COVID. So what it does is it modifies the glucose molecule, and then COVID virus starts uptaking this molecule, which you provide in this drug, and it stops replicating because it's not getting glucose. Now that's a very clever mechanism they have found. CCMB did the screening of this molecule, and then Dr. Reddy's lab did the clinical trial, and that's how this drug has come to the market, almost. So the trials are a very important part, and this is an area where CSIR labs have to develop new networks, because many times for doing trials in the user context, in the field, in the industrial cluster, in the workshop, in the ceramic cluster, etc., the facilities for that kind of trial are not always available. So this is an area, this is an unmet institutional need, and I will request Ashwini and Dr. Sangwan to push this idea that if our students want to do research, they should get mobility, they should get support, they should be able to hire students from other colleges to help them in their field trials. So more field trials will be done. But if they have to do everything themselves, and in addition to their research, PhD research, maybe they may not find time to do that. Some will find, some may not find. So the innovations will not take place then. Our idea will be abundant. So it's very important that we encourage trials. Feedback from friends and all can improve. There can be different kinds of innovations: incremental, derivative, transformative, disruptive, radical. When earlier we had calculator, I don't know, none of you might have seen, we had to rotate, handle, move the digit one by one, tens, hundreds, unit, tens, hundred, like that. And if I had to solve a simultaneous equation, whole night I will spend in using the calculator, mechanical calculator, and we will be able to solve one equation in whole night. Now with electronic calculators or electronic computers, computers and calculators, you can do it much faster. Nowadays, it's become very easy. Not in my time, in 1970s, late 70s, early 70s, we didn't have electronic calculators at all. So the process becomes very slow, and if it has become very slow, then you may not take up a problem which requires too much of calculation. So that comes in the way. The lack of facilities come in the way. So similarly, yes, you need new tools. Some of you mentioned some equipments are not available enough. All those problems will require drive folder link. Yes, everyone. Is there any other comment in the chat which I missed? Helplessness. Yes, it's a good point that you mentioned. It works both ways. Learned helplessness is a factor which prevents initiative. It doesn't encourage initiative, it prevents. And it's a very serious problem. I learned to be helpless. What could I have done? I'm alone. I can't solve this problem. I'm too insignificant. Kaun sunega meri baat? Nobody will listen to me, etc., etc. So I learned to be helpless. And that is a major, major barrier to take initiative. It's a good point that you mentioned. In literature, this is very much researched, that we must discourage learned helplessness. To remove guilt, to overcome our guilt, not to feel responsible, we learn to be helpless. But actually, we are not helpless. We can take initiative. Good point, good point. Anybody else wants to mention anything else? When we take initiative, some people continue with initiative, some people give it up very fast. Is there any reason that you find? What is the factor which shows? Yes, if it is expensive. Imposter syndrome. I couldn't follow. Keshav, can you clarify? Sachin, your point is right. Social disharmony can trigger your change. Keshav, what is your point? Imposter syndrome. Can you elaborate? Keshav? I mean, you claim that you have a solution, but you don't have. Is that what you mean? Tanushri, lack of empathy is a very major reason. You're faking to be good. Yes, yes, maybe that's what it means. That's what I thought. It's very important that you say this point. Let me go further back. Incompetency, yes. If I feel that I'm not competent to solve the problem, then I don't take initiative. And in that situation, I should make a network. I should collaborate with somebody who has the competence. This is the age of network for that reason, because problems have become complex and no one discipline, no one branch of physics, chemistry, biology, or whatever is able to solve problem completely. So what do? We then need to involve others. OSDD initiative that Samir Brahmachari's time was taken, he'll be coming to our class, BIS class tomorrow, Biotechnological Innovation Technician School tomorrow. He had developed that open source drug discovery platform where anybody could put up an idea and then other people will critique it. And if many people liked it, a PhD student and a professor can say, I would like to be a part of a group. Your idea is very valid. I know this skill. You have this skill. Let us work together and solve this problem. So they were trying to work for TB, tuberculosis. They were trying to find different pathways, different targets by which they could develop new drug, because for 20 years, no new drug had been developed for TB. So lack of competence in any one person triggered a whole platform of collaboration. So please understand that it's a very important point that you mentioned, and we need to pay attention. This can be a good way to overcome inertia by proper cooperation with others. That can be very lack of proper guidance. Yes, that actually I'll just come to you in a minute. Proper guidance, yes. So what do? We find the mentors where they are. And cross-lab mentoring is done. I mean, if you write to a professor whose paper you find very much useful, and tell the professor that, look, I'm working on this problem, I'm able to resolve it, can guide me on this issue. Generally speaking, professors will find time to answer that question. So, yes, guidance may not be possible within the lab, but we can always seek from outside. Sometimes it is available, most of the time it is available, sometimes it is not available. Lack of confidence. Yes, lack of confidence is a diffidence. I mean, most of us suffer from that problem because we are not sure we can do it. A lack of confidence is different from lack of competence. I have competence but not confidence, and that's a ticklish problem. So that we should try to find a way out after that. My competence is there. I'm able to solve this problem, but I'm not sure that I can. Again, their network can help by talking to people who encourage you. So, okay, you try to do this. I will also add something in this. Then the problem becomes solved. I think we are, as an individual, we work very well. In group, sometimes we don't work as well. Honeybee Network has proved that people can work together. They can collaborate. Sometimes we don't collaborate, and that becomes the reason for lack of success. Scarcity has already come. Lack of funding has come. Sensitivity, lack of motivation. Lack of motivation, yes. So what do? We sometimes, our Shodhyatras were one way of increasing the motivation by exposing us, students, scholars, farmers, to the problem that otherwise we will miss. So that can be a way in which I'll take one more slide and then we will discuss the rest in the next class, but I'll just quickly, and we will share this PPT with you. So you can comment on it, you can modify this. The idea is that you improve upon it. All of you can make modification in this framework and add dimensions. Many of you have already done that. We will revise this diagram with the help of the points that you have mentioned. Mega, please save the chat. Keep saving the chat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So innovation to diffuse, there are different factors, facility factor and inhibitory factor. One of you mentioned lab environment is not good. That may be inhibitory factor. But if the environment is good, then it becomes facilitative factor. An environment, please don't think that others make the environment. We also make the environment. If you are open, supposing you're reading papers, you're reading a journal, and you come across a reference which can be useful to another student of your class. A good environment, lab environment would mean that you will either take a photocopy or you will take a camera copy, a photo of that paper or the image reference, and WhatsApp to or send it to the other friend of yours. I came across this paper, it may be of interest to you. Forget about it. You've done a good turn. You have shared a reference which other person may have or may not have covered and saved the transaction cost, saved the search time. Now that person may reciprocate, may not reciprocate. You don't worry about it. You have done what you wanted to do. So many times the environment can be changed by us. So you may say, but sir, other person doesn't reciprocate. Why should I share? No, no, no. It is your nature to share. That's it. Why do you worry about others not reciprocating? And slowly, people remember you. Oh, Neha was good, or so-and-so was very good because she used to share references even for others, with others, not just for her own work. And that makes you leader. How do people become leaders? Ashwini, you were saying something I forgot to ask you. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I was trying to make a point that in these days of internet and social media, I think crowdsourcing can be a very important trigger for continuation of any initiatives.
Yes, OSDT was crowdsourcing platform, but there can be other platforms also. And, you know, I don't know whether I'll get time, but I want to share with you one slide today before I go further. There's not enough time, but I want to share. If I can find that, I will add to share. I don't know if I have it here. I don't think I put it here. The slide that I wanted to share with you was download to upload ratio. I asked this question, and the point that Ashwini has made just now is very important, because if you have high download to upload ratio, you are a consumer of knowledge, you're not producing knowledge. But if you have a low download to upload ratio, you upload more than you download, you are a knowledge producer, you are a leader, others will follow you. So both as a blogger, you can share your ideas. You can do that. Satisfaction, of course, is a good trigger. Swanta Sukhay, that means for your own happiness you do it. That is the most powerful motivation, Archana. There is nothing else in the world which can motivate more than this thought of Swanta Sukhay. I don't care whether others like it or not. I don't care whether others reciprocate or not. I don't care whether others approve of it or not. But I feel that that's the right thing to do, and I'll do it. As simple as that. And that leads to a lot of good solutions. The possibilities of good quality APIs, yes, that could be a good solution. May trigger. I was doing a study of COVID diagnostic entrepreneurs, and I found that many of them were facing a lot of difficulty at customs in importing. They were asked to pay almost 50% custom duty on regions that were required for diagnostic, which is very unfortunate. And customs have could have been more smart, could have been more responsive, even if the custom duty was paid, not applying that properly. So, yes, access to resources, ability to import the ingredients, components of your kit makes it easier for you to make it faster, and country can benefit from that. So, crowdsourcing is certainly a good idea. Crowdsourcing of ideas. There are both. Crowdsourcing takes place for hardware, and it also takes place for software. GitHub, some of you have used GitHub. Anybody is open source champion here? Anybody open source software champion? I'm sure some of you are great fan of open source software. So in GitHub, GIT, you can find a lot of softwares which people make them and put them there for anybody to use them. So it becomes very useful for other people to use it. So crowdsourcing is certainly a very important point. Let me go. We're discussing this one. I want to refer one case here. When you look at discontinuance, many times people think discontinuance is a negative thing. If somebody is not adopting my technology, that person is not capable. He's foolish. He's not wise enough. He's not entrepreneurial enough. But you know, sometimes that person may be very wise. He saw a shortcoming of my technology which I didn't notice. And therefore, he tried it and discontinued it. People who are early adopter and early discontinuer are the most important people for learning from. They are creative people. They can quickly size up the problem, size up the solution, and give us feedback. So when you go to the field and you want to get a feedback on your lab technologies, or you want to set up an experiment in work out with the people, pay attention to those who are quick to jump on an idea, and if they don't find it useful, they are also quick to reject. There are other people who will continue with it even if it's not so useful. And there are people who will adopt late because they are waiting for others to show the result, and they may discontinue fast or they will discontinue it. There are different kinds of combination of adoption and discontinuance. In the literature on adoption of innovation, there is a great deal of emphasis on adoption, not much on discontinuance. So you may pay attention to this. Why do people reject technologies? Why do people not continue with the solution? And we need to talk to them, to listen to them. A lot of users modify solutions that are available and adapt them to their own need, as I gave you example. So Eric von Hippel has written a book, Democratizing Innovation. You can download it from his website, Sloan School, Democratizing Innovation. Can you write down? Megha, can you put the link here? Democratizing Innovation. Let me write down this title. You can download this book free. And if you go to his page at mit.edu, you will find this book listed there. You can download it very easily. So he has given many examples of user-driven innovation in development. So there was a person who used to go for jogging. He is using a pram tied to his waist, and the child was sitting in the pram. Somebody else saw that's a great idea. Pram can be tied to your body, so you can take a child for jogging. You are jogging, and child is in the pram. That fellow enjoys the jerk of the jogging, and child is happy. You are happy. Otherwise, if you use the conventional pram, you cannot jog. So he removed two wheels. Only one wheel was there, and the rest of it was attached to your body. That became a product. Some people said, "Can you make it for us? Can you make it for us?" Eventually, he set up a company and started selling those prams, jogging prams for children. So many times, users modify the products and develop new innovations, and it's very important that we talk to the people and get it. I'll stop here. We have only 10 minutes left. Any question that you have, any comment that okay. Any comment, raise any. Rajeshwari, you wanted to say something? Also, this book is already there in the folder. You can get it from the folder. Yeah, Prachi mentioned she has used GitHub. Thank you, Pooja. You also use it. This is a good point that remaining dissatisfied with your performance. Aishwari, you want to say something? You are unmuted. Are you saying something or it is just by chance?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Anybody else has any observation on what we have discussed today about inertia, how some people overcome inertia, take initiative, why technologies for women or by women suffer a great deal. They undergo change very slowly. How, when we take initiative, some people continue with it and persist with it and lead to a conclusion, whereas others give up too soon. They are not able to persist. So there's a database that we have. I mentioned last time. I will mention again. Techpedia.in. And I will say, as one friend mentioned once in a meeting, I was giving a talk. He said India is the largest graveyard of unfinished projects, and he was so right. The graveyard of unfinished project, because we do something and we leave it, and then other students don't follow it up. There's no COCO model of projects. I would very much wish that this time we develop some ideas in this course, which you can then follow up and either pass on the baton to some junior students who will take it forward and complete it. So any other comment, please?
Yes, sir. I would like to make a point.
Yeah.
Sir, this competition versus collaboration.
Yeah.
So competition, obviously, we would like to get some new innovations or maybe trying to improve a product which our competitors have developed. But I think more than competition, these are the days in which we need to collaborate. Because in collaboration, we can use the strengths of each other and develop a product which is of use for the entire globe.
In fact, I don't know of any major breakthrough in the recent past which has come out without collaboration. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that collaboration is the heart of the matter. And collaborations can take place across departments within the lab. They can take place across the lab. And sometimes they can also take place across the countries. Of course, we know that. Only one rider here, and this is something that might surprise you or may not surprise you. I did a study of patents in US filed by Indians and Chinese. And I looked at how many of them had shared the IP with the resident Indian or resident Chinese. So that is a non-resident Indian sharing IP with resident Indian. There may be Europeans in between, doesn't matter. In China, almost 46%, I can show you the data next time, 46% patents had a resident Chinese. In India, hardly 5 to 7, 11% total. What does it mean? Indians collaborate far less with their compatriots. So we don't get so much of technology transfer or knowledge transfer or competence transfer from NRIs as Chinese get from NRC, non-resident Chinese. No surprise that China is making faster progress, much faster progress than us. So collaboration is indeed the key, and not just across continents, I would say within the country. And this is where I will appeal that even if, I will repeat myself, that even if you find others are not reciprocating, others are not cooperating, you do your bit. I'll tell a small story and end the class today. Or maybe I should wait for that story. If there's any other comment, please go ahead. Anybody else who wants to share something or ask a question?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah,
I have a question.
Yeah,
sir,
please.
I have a question. I'm Gaurav Prajapati from CSIR ITR. Sir, correct me if I'm wrong. Today, the research environment, according to me, we are going to stick to publish more papers instead of using productive and applicable research. I mean, we are currently going to upload more papers instead of using our instead of observing the problems related to society and produce to solve them. Instead of using this, we are using producing more papers and upload them. Sir, is this right, or correct me if I'm wrong?
You know what? Even in the case of A-class publication, China has overtaken US. So China has combined both. It publishes more and it produces more. We are far behind in publishing A-class journals, A-class top papers, and also in filing patents and converting patent into product. So there is no conflict. Generally, you will find, Gaurav, that people who are productive, that means who produce solutions, also publish a lot, exceptions apart. I mean, both are not always contradictory, though it does mean you have to stretch your life a little bit more, but you can combine the good to good. You can make short communications. Doesn't matter. You don't have to write long papers for that. But your point is valid that we have been far more now. The question that Sachin has raised, again, can be answered in the same tenor. You know, we did a lot of work on artemisinin. Nobel Prize went to China, not to India, because we just stopped short. Have you heard about Milkha Singh syndrome? Anybody?
Not yet, sir. No, sir.
So Milkha Singh in the Rome Olympics was ahead of everybody till the 80th or 90th meter. It was a 100-meter race. At 90th meter, he turned back and saw who is behind me. And he became fourth. And I call that as Milkha Singh syndrome. That means we are more interested in watching what others are doing than what we are doing ourselves. And that affects, that's why we are not able to succeed. Now, we published a lot of papers on, with due respect to my colleagues in CDRI, nobody should mind me saying this. CDRI published a lot of paper on Artemisium. I would assume that probably more than Chinese scholars did. But they didn't pursue the link to the logical conclusion and develop the drug which Chinese developed for malaria. And that whole process led to the Nobel Prize, apart from the mechanism and so on. So you are right that we haven't developed too many drugs except biosimilars. We haven't developed many new drugs, possibly because that passion, that persistence, and that argument that we have to make with ourselves, that let me push this further a little bit more, and eventually we find a solution. So it is not that we are not capable, we are capable. It is also not true that we don't have facilities. We have facilities. It is also not true that we do not have sufficiently good mentors. We have mentors. But there's one thing which is probably lacking, which is persistence. They give up too soon. At 90th meter, for 10 more meters, we had to rush and win the race. At 90th meter, we start looking at what others are doing, and we get lagged behind. So I'm convinced that many of the grassroots innovators who have succeeded in solving problem didn't know what others were doing. They didn't care. They didn't have internet. And therefore, they developed the solution themselves. And we just stayed behind. So it's a good question. But my suggestion is that try to find that persistence. I would say sometimes put blinkers. The horses are, when horses were used for Tonga, horse carriages, blinkers were put. They should not look at left and right and move in the same direction. Otherwise, they get distracted. I think we need to put blinkers sometime. Close our mind to many more other things. Don't get distracted. Internet has done a lot of damage. Yes, Jeet, please go ahead, Jeet.
Sir, I know we have resources and everything, but as a scholar, I seriously that issue about that publishing a A-class paper. But first we have to access the A-class papers. We don't have an access of A-class papers. We use SCI Hub as a egg to download papers.
There is a Russian and there is also another hacker who has put a lot of journal articles on an archive where you can get access them. I can share the link again next time. So, it is difficult, but it is possible to get access to and then your lab wouldn't subscribe to Science Direct or something of that kind?
No, sir. No, sir. They may have for the scientists or maybe, but not for the students.
I'm surprised, Ashwini. This is something serious here. Isko flag karo aaji. I will also write to Shekhar. Is it true? Are you all? Can somebody else confirm to me that students don't have access to the Science Direct and things of this kind for getting papers?
Yes, sir. Sir, we don't have any access.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Research without access to the
Any
papers.
access for many of the papers.
Yes, sir. We don't have access, sir.
Yeah, that is true, sir.
This is amazing. I'm shocked. I'm really shocked. I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell DG right away this issue tonight.
So actually, there are, so on Web of Science and on different platforms, the government has subscribed, but then individual institutes, they have not joined in on that network.
Oh,
So
why
we
they have
don't
not
have
joined?
that
Why have they
access.
not joined?
Sir, don't know. Really good institutions, they have not joined, but very new universities that have come up, like government universities, central universities that have come up like 9 or 10 years ago, they are in that loop, but older
You know,
institutes
even
like
today after retirement, I can send a mail to my library as an ex-faculty, retired faculty, visiting faculty, and they will get me any paper I want. So if
The
suppose this is
libraries
a
do
price,
have that access, but we don't have the access for our own lab
no. So
computers and all.
if you send a list of 10 papers that you want to be for your research, would library not acquire these 10 papers and give you? Have you tried that, Shalini?
No, sir, I've not tried it yet, but they just
Try.
ask us to
Send
go
a mail.
and
Send a mail to library. Ask them to
okay.
give you 10 papers which you couldn't access directly because they are priced publication. Let us see whether you can get it or not. I will wait for one more day. Send me a mail.
Actually, we're asked to go to the library and then just get whatever paper we want to get. But it is difficult for us to run to the library all the time for getting a paper.
You can't get access to library sitting at home?
No, sir. We have to
you
go
don't
to
have
the library.
you don't have remote login?
No, sir.
No, sir. No,
sir.
sir.
Sir, we don't have
No,
remote
sir.
login.
I can access
Hello?
my library of IMA sitting at my home.
Sir, we can't.
From
No, sir,
Imtech,
we
from
can't do that.
CSR Imtech,
So we can't do that, sir.
it is possible to access the library from outside of Imtech as well as Imtech. You can remotely log in the library. But the thing, and of course, when you send a list of journal paper articles to the librarian, he very happily sends them back. But the thing is, we don't, sometimes it happens like you are going through 50, 60 articles when we need to do some data extraction like things, and you cannot send on a regular basis that person, sir, please send me this journal, especially in case of Science Direct. Even if from Sci-Hub you cannot download. So it's a very difficult.
Well, we will not spend more time on this, but I'll request Ashwini and Dr. Sangwan to discuss this issue. And but there are two things we can do. One, that there are good practices. IMTAC has a good practice. We should follow it in all labs. So we should select the good practices and share them with all the other labs. Second is that, of course, if you want good research and good publications, surely you need access to the journals and articles. There can be no argument about it. And we should facilitate that. But without distracting from that, I want to bring you back to the topic because we have exceeded the minute. Yes, Ashish, quickly. Ashish, you want to say something?
यस सर, मैं ये बोलना चाहता था कि पेपर तो हम लाइब्रेरी में तो जब एक्सेस कर सकते हैं, हमें तो ईमेल आईडी तक नहीं मिली है इंस्टीट्यूट से आज तक। 5 साल हमें भी हो गए, हम आजकल जीमेल यूज कर रहे हैं, रिसर्च गेट पर हम आईडी नहीं बना सकते। तो ये तो बहुत बड़ी बात है कि हम लाइब्रेरी एक्सेस कर पाएंगे कभी।
All right, well, I'm sorry about it, but I will request that our friend Ashwini will take note of these things, and I will also take note of these things, and we will collaboratively try to make life better for you. But remember, the focus was that when we work on problems that society is facing, and particularly at grassroots level, and there's an inertia we find both among the people and at our level, we try to solve it collaboratively within ourselves and with the communities. And in that collaboration, many times we give up too soon. So less the focus is lost. We were saying that if we have to collaborate, and we need at that time access to information so that we can provide the best of the formal science and best of the informal science can be worked together. Then we move to the topic as to why we are not able to develop product. And we realize that many times we give up too soon. We don't persist with the idea. So we should persist with the idea. We should have access to the information. We should persist with the idea and be able to solve the problem. Let me make it very clear. No matter, even if you get all the research papers that you need, even if you get full access to it from your home, on your room, that will not solve the problem that we are discussing now. The problem we are discussing now is that with all the information that we have, which is inadequate, okay, but even with that information that we have, how many times are we making connection between the knowledge that we have, feeling it produces, and actions we take as we discussed in the last class, so that outputs come which can improve the life of the people. we will discuss next time. How do we learn from the people? We're not learning from the people. We are not sharing them enough with them. And this hiatus that exists, that gap that exists, we need to really address that problem. So I agree with you that there are many constraints, many problems that you face. But please understand that a lot of information available in public access, in public domain, archive.org, and many other sites are existing where pre-publication papers are also available, as you know. All of those are available. There's not enough information. There will never be sufficient information in life. But our motivations, our triggers can be such that with whatever information we can have, we can solve problems and make breakthroughs. So friends, we are going to close now. You have been shared the spreadsheet, but also the form, whichever way you find it easier. Fill up the unmet needs, why they could not be pursued, and be self-critical. If you think that I didn't have energy enough to pursue with it, say so. Or if you think that your guide didn't encourage you, say so. If you think that there was a problem in the resources that you didn't find which you could have solved, whatever. But let us be honest to ourselves and be self-critical in this regard so that we can learn. And we can also learn from those who solved the problem. Some of you have addressed the unmet needs of society, and therefore we will learn from you. Thank you so much. Good luck and keep it up. And we will meet in the next class. Thank you. And we'll find out a computer and we'll send you all the papers.
Thank you, sir.
Please stay safe and be happy and be positive in terms of spirit. Negative in COVID. Wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You can close it now. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, sir.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
night. Good night, Mega. Can you close the?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ending the
Bye-bye.
meeting.
When is the next class, sir?
Date.
Next Wednesday.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Let me also mention the topic.
Thank
About this.
Thank you, sir.
You have the outline. Please have
Thank
a
you,
look at
sir.
the outline. If you have any suggestion to make any changes, we can make the changes. We can incorporate.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Next class is how to identify the unmet need at individual, committee, and institutional level, and even at civilization. That is May 26th. 5:30 is the next class. May 26th. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Sir, please share the
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night, sir.